Ladies and gentlemen, imagine this. You wake up, stand tall, and feel your legs support you with certainty. That's not just comfort. That's freedom. But what if I told you that one tiny spoonful, taken daily, could decide whether you stay strong and mobile or watch your muscle slowly melt away year after year? It's not fiction, it's biology. After 60, your body doesn't lose muscle because of age. It loses it because the brain stops sending the right signals. Muscle is neural. Every movement, every step starts in the brain, and that means it's modifiable. You just need to give it the right fuel. There's a specific compound, natural, powerful, and safe, that when taken consistently triggers neuromuscular ignition. Just one spoon delivers the building blocks you need to fire correctly, and your muscles need to respond. And here's the secreting, the timing matters. Take it in the morning and you align it with your cortisol rhythm. This enhances absorption, boosts your drive to move, and maximizes muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. You're not just feeding the body. You're activating a feedback loop of strength, motion, and confidence. Your brain starts rewiring itself to say, we're still building. So how do we? We're still growing. And that's where the momentum begins. Start to notice your balance returning. Stairs become easier. Getting up from a chair no longer feels like lifting a mountain. That's your nervous system saying thank you. That's your body remembering its strength. The spoon. Picture the muscle. Picture your future. Upright, steady, strong. You have a lifetime of wisdom. Don't let your body behind your mind. The science is in. The choice is yours. One spoon, once a day. And the muscle stays. Have you ever wondered why after 60, your legs don't respond the way they used to? Not because of pain, but because of something deeper, something almost silent. That slow delay when you rise from a chair, the subtle tremble when stepping off a curb, the cautious descent down the stairs. It all begins not in your muscles, but in your brain. Your nervous system is the master conductor, sending precise electrical signals from the motor cortex down to the spinal cord, into the neuromuscular junctions where muscle fibers receive their marching orders. But with age, that signal transmission weakens, not due to lack of will, but due to diminished fuel, diminished connection, and a reduction in the key nutrients that keep synaptic firing sharp and reliable. Your muscles are not failing you, they're waiting. Waiting for the command, the ignition, the activation that only your nervous system can deliver. And here's the overlooked truth in your muscles. Don't start decaying because they're unused. They decay because the signal telling them to activate gets dimmer, more distorted, less frequent. It's not about bulk or reps or routines. It's about the brain's ability to stay in constant, energized communication with your body's machinery. That communication depends on cellular resources. Micronutrients, neurochemicals, and metabolic support that few people over 60 realize they're missing. When that vital link begins to fade, the body doesn't scream, it whispers. A little fatigue here, a little imbalance there. Muscles don't shrink overnight. They dissolve through months and years of under-signaling of neural circuits that used to fire 100 times per second, now slipping to half that rate. The signal loss becomes strength loss, and strength loss becomes independence loss. The most powerful intervention is not more effort, but more connection. And that connection starts with giving your nervous system the raw materials it needs to fire with purpose, direction, and stability every single day. The connection between what you consume and how your body moves is far more immediate and intricate than most people realize. Every time you lift a foot, reach for a cup or rise from bed, there is a precise cascade of neural signals that begins in the brain and travels through the spinal cord, activating motor neurons that stimulate muscle fibers. But for that signal to be effective, fast, and sustained, the body depends heavily on specific nutritional inputs, compounds that serve as the biochemical fuel for this neuromuscular communication. Amino acids like leucine and lysine are not just structural building blocks of muscle. They actively influence the activation threshold of motor units by supporting neurotransmitter synthesis and protein turnover. Omega-3 fatty acids, particularly DHA and EPA, are crucial components of the phospholipid membranes that insulate nerve fibers and ensure signal fidelity. Without them, the conduction speed of your motor neurons begins to decline, leading to sluggish muscle activation and coordination loss. Micronutrients like magnesium, B12, and vitamin D play key roles in synaptic plasticity and nerve excitability, acting like molecular gatekeepers that regulate how readily a neuron will fire when stimulated. Creatine, often misunderstood as a supplement for young athletes, actually serves as an ATPP buffer, providing rapid energy bursts necessary for quick and forceful muscle contractions, especially in fast twitch fibers, which are the first to atrophy with age. Collagen peptides support tendon resilience and neuromuscular junction integrity, offering mechanical and biochemical support at the interface where nerves and muscles meet. Without consistent intake of these specific nutrients, the electrical signal from your brain may reach its destination more weakly, with less precision and reduced effect, leading to a slow degradation in strength, reaction time, and stability. And when nutrient deficiencies persist, the body compensates by rerouting limited resources, prioritizing survival over performance, which accelerates the cycle of muscle loss, motor unit dropout, and functional decline. The human body does not function on a random timeline. It operates on an internal clock known as the circadian rhythm. A 24-cycle that regulates everything from hormone release and core temperature to nutrient absorption and muscle recovery. When it comes to stopping muscle loss and maintaining neuromuscular function after 60, understanding and leveraging this clock is not optional. It's foundational. Hormones that govern muscle synthesis and repair, like testosterone, growth hormone, and cortisol, follow strict circadian patterns. Cortisol, often misunderstood as merely a stress hormone, peaks in the early morning and plays a critical role in mobilizing energy and enhancing the muscle's ability to utilize amino acids for repair and preservation. Growth hormone, essential for muscle regeneration and satellite cell activation, pulses most effectively during early stage sleep, particularly between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., aligning with melatonin release and parasympathetic dominance. Nutrient timing, therefore, becomes a tool, not just a habit. Consuming protein-rich or amino acid-enhanced nutrients in the morning, when cortisol is highest, primes the body for better anabolic activity throughout the day. Taking omega-3 fatty acids or creatine during this window also enhances cognitive motor synergy, because that's when insulin sensitivity is elevated and neuromodulatory systems are most active. In the evening, nutrients that support recovery, such as magnesium, glycine, or collagen, sync with the body's parasympathetic tone and melatonin-driven repair processes, supporting overnight muscle restoration and reducing overnight catabolism. Even mitochondrial function, the very engine of cellular energy and muscle contraction, follows a circadian rhythm with peaks and troughs in activity that dictate when nutrients like CoQ10 or B vitamins will be most efficiently utilized. Ignoring these rhythms means missing the window where your body is most receptive to building, protecting, and sustaining muscle, especially in aging physiology where responsiveness is already diminished. By aligning nutrient intake with your body's natural hormonal tides, you amplify not only absorption, but also signal strength, metabolic efficiency, and overall muscular resilience at a time when every hour of the biological clock begins to count more and more toward either loss or longevity. A motivation to act, especially in the realm of health and movement, is not just a matter of willpower. It's a neurochemical process deeply rooted in the brain's dopaminergic system, which governs drive, effort-based decision-making, and sustained focus on goals. Dopamine is often mistaken as the molecule of pleasure, but in reality, it is the molecule of anticipation of progress, of forward movement. When you take a specific action like consuming a spoonful of a muscle-supporting nutrient, your brain tracks that behavior not just for its outcome, but for the momentum it generates. The mere act of doing something intentional for your health triggers a feedback loop through the mesolimbic pathway, which strengthens neural circuits associated with consistency, confidence, and purpose. After 60, when natural dopamine levels begin to decline, especially in regions like the substantiae nigra and ventral tegmental area, it becomes even more critical to establish daily rituals that spark dopaminergic release. Small, achievable actions that are tied to visual cues, such as a spoon, a specific time of day, or a checklist, can create micro doses of dopamine, nudge the brain toward repetition, pattern recognition, and long-term compliance. Nutritional interventions themselves can enhance this loop. Tyrosine-rich compounds, certain adaptogens, and micronutrients like B6 and iron all serve as cofactors in dopamine synthesis, meaning that the very act of consuming targeted nutrients helps to chemically reinforce the drive to continue. Moreover, dopamine doesn't just affect the brain. It affects the entire neuromuscular axis, enhancing muscle contractility, movement precision, and even motivation to engage in physical activity. By creating a positive anticipation around a simple spoonful each day, linking it to strength, autonomy, and vitality, you don't just support muscle health physiologically, you end a reward-driven habit loop neurologically, one that makes the behavior more desirable with each repetition. This intrinsic motivation builds upon itself, converting a single action into an identity and eventually transforming what was once a small routine into a self-reinforcing system of health, strength, and empowered longevity. The human brain encodes information far more effectively when it's tied to imagery rather than abstraction, and this becomes especially crucial with age, as the hippocampus, responsible for memory formation, responds best to spatial and visual encoding. Visual memory anchors serve as neurological shortcuts. How do we? Allowing the brain to retrieve complex actions and instructions by attaching them to a clear, repeatable image. When it comes to preserving muscle after 60 with one simple daily action, the goal is not just to remember what to do, but to make the behavior so firmly in the mind that it becomes automatic. Picture a spoon, not just any spoon, but a bright gleaming silver one resting beside a glass of water at sunrise, symbolizing a moment of strength, a ritual of rebuilding. That image, repeated daily, links nutrient timely with the golden hours of the circadian clock, reinforcing not just habit, but identity, or visualize the nutrient itself as liquid gold, slowly energizing neural circuits like wiring being reignited with electrical flow, traveling from brain to muscle with intention and clarity. Use the image of muscles, not as bulky or gym trained, but as tightly woven fibers being rethreaded, supported by this act, as if each spoonful were stitching strength back in the body one thread at a time. Anchor that visual to a specific location in your home. A window, a table, a medicine cabinet, because placing action triggers the parietal lobe spatial memory pathways and enhances cue-based recall. Use tactile cues. Tug, the cold touch of a spoon's metal against your fingers, the sound of it clinking on the countertop, the warmth of your first morning breath as you take it in, all of these sensory experiences feed the visual loop. The more senses you attach to a behavior, the more resilient the memory becomes, and the easier it is for the brain to retrieve the routine even when motivation wanes. Associating muscle preservation with a physical object, a spoon, and a simple, vivid moment. Sunlight, a glass of water, your own reflection creates a cognitive tag that guides future behavior without requiring conscious effort. In this way, a daily nutritional act becomes more than a supplement. It becomes a memory pathway that primes the motor system for action, that links self-image with vitality, that encodes strength not just in tissue, but in the architecture of the mind itself, in the science of neuroplasticity review that defies outdated beliefs about aging. Your brain is not fixed, your nervous system is not rigid, and your body is not condemned to decline simply because time has passed. At every age, including well beyond 60, your neural circuits remain capable of change, capable of rewiring, adapting, and strengthening in response to consistent input and purposeful behavior. The connection between your mind and muscles is dynamic, and when you provide the correct signal through nutrition, intention, and daily repetition, you activate a cascade of adaptive processes that reinforce movement, stability, and growth. Even as motor neurons become less efficient with age, the brain can recruit alternative pathways, or re-engage dormant connections, and enhance the coordination between sensory feedback and motor output. Every day you take that spoonful of neuromuscular nourishment, you're not just preserving tissue, you're sending a signal to your brain that says, this system matters, this body is still learning, this person is still building. New synapses can form in response to new routines, and when those routines are paired with movement, attention, and reward, they become part of a stronger, more flexible neural architecture. The aging process doesn't eliminate the brain's potential to adapt, it simply raises the cost of inaction. But the same plasticity that helped you learn to walk, to write, to remember names, and navigate the world decades ago still lives in you now, waiting to be reawakened. Neuroplastic empowerment means you have the ability to drive your own transformation, to train your nervous system through repeated action, and to rebuild your body from the inside out with small, consistent, biologically aligned decisions. Muscle loss after 60 is not inevitable. It is negotiable, and the terms are written by what you do each day to feed, move, and stimulate the systems that support strength, balance, and vitality. The brain is the architect of movement, the muscles are its tools, and the will to improve is the ignition switch that makes them both come alive again with purpose, resilience, and control.